Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Walker. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So what it is the traditional Walker Thanksgiving dinner, and we kind of find, this is our first time actually getting to really kind of showcase that and kind of find out about kind of the Walker Thanksgiving tradition, and that is that their mom does nothing. Like, Abby's supposed to not work, not lift a finger. The boys are supposed to go out, hunt turkey, Yeah, they were going to do things a little different this year, go straight from like, rather than being store-bought, it's like, right, we'll hunt a turkey, we'll do our thing, we'll cook it up, boom. That kind of fell apart. And I guess you could make the argument that's like things starting off wrong there. It just had trickle effect throughout the entire episode. Because this Thanksgiving dinner was a bit of a disaster because there's so many different things and elements going into this. Cordell hasn't had an opportunity. He hasn't talked to Stella. I guess it's been like a couple weeks since she moved out, since like last episode, right? So there's been radio silence. She hasn't really responded to her dad. Understandably, she's upset with him. It's like, you choose August over me. You haven't been listening to me at all. Like, you assume the worst in me, that yes, I've made mistakes, but you haven't bothered to listen to me. And he wanted to listen to her last episode and wanted to apologize for it, but it was already too late. The damage was done. It's not until he talked to Liam last episode that made him kind of go like, right, I should have handled the Stella thing differently, and she moved out. So that, I think that just added more salt to the wound type of situation. So there's that. At which Stella's already coming into this, once again, continued situation with heat too, because now it turns out that she sees her dad trying to bribe her back home because he's trying to convince her to like, hey, let's have I'm making baked Alaska and all this, some of the things that are your favorite, but it's like, even his mom is like, why don't you actually try talking to Stella? Maybe a pumpkin pie would do, because she's like, yeah, you're kind of avoiding having a very hard conversation, because it's, once again, it's understandable Walker's going through a lot, but he still should have, but he's trying to juggle so much, and it's just like, with so many balls in the air, something's bound to fall. Something's bound to slip through your hands that you can't quite grasp or catch in time. So it's a very apt metaphor for the relationship, because that ball is continue to fall. The question is, does Cordell have the reflexes and the wherewithal and skill to catch it before it touches the ground, Because I don't think it's quite landed yet, but it's on its way. So all that's happening. Obviously you have Liam inviting Ben over because he's thankful of their relationship, but Ben and Cassie have like this Black Friday thing, and it's an important tradition for them. Like, Black Friday is technically their Thanksgiving, and so it's like a whole thing they put time into and stuff like that. But for Ben, it's so important to him because, yeah, him and Cassie have only just gotten back. Like, last season was their first time really connecting again because they had lost touch for so many years, and he saw how important this is to her, because he only dives into this tradition because it's something that was lost between him, and he sees this as an opportunity to connect with his sister again, connect with something they haven't done it together for so long. So he didn't want to bail on her, especially in a moment like this, and a golden opportunity for them, obviously, to do some more sibling bonding and stuff. So, which obviously I think there's a very neat parallel between Cassie and Ben, along with the whole Liam and Cordell situation as well. So that they've kind of mended fences. They're in a better, circumstance. Obviously, they have the trauma. I mean, let's not get towards like the whole, obviously when he needed his sister most, she wasn't around, doing like losing his, it wasn't just his boyfriend, like it was his fiance, wasn't it? I don't remember. I think they were engaged. Maybe not. I don't think they were married, but I don't remember if that was just his boyfriend or whether that was like his fiance that died. But either way, so like there's trauma associated with like at the core of like both circumstances, and obviously at the time there were already issues kind of there to begin with that, and I think what added even more so was that Cassie kind of stayed away even more, like especially the Miles stuff made her retreat even more than she had already kind of retreated away from everything. So I think there's a lot kind of going on, and how, circling that too, it's like how important this day is to Marlene, especially because she called someone William earlier, and I was like, it took me a while to the episode where like the William she was calling, that was her brother. They haven't spoken in years, because probably the last time they spoke was when her mom died 20 years ago. basically her mom was sick. It was Thanksgiving Day, so that's why this day's kind of rough for her. So her mom was sick, and she was trying to like make her mom, like, because her mom's feet would get cold, so it was her job to kind of keep them warm, but she could never figure out why. And I think what irked her nerves is at such a like crucial point, like her brother like apparently like corrected her, and it had to be the one to explain why. Like either she forgot to do it, probably didn't think too much just because everything going on, she might have forgotten to, and her brother had to be the one that's like, oh, you're forgetting to warm up mom's feet, you remember, she have to, and like that led to a big argument that even she's like, I don't remember what it was, but it got nasty. And obviously the mom died, and they haven't really spoken since. Hence why she was telling that story to Stella last episode, I believe. And it's like, yeah, that's why she's trying to repair their relationship, because she doesn't want it to be a repeat of her relationship with her brother. But obviously the problem too is, once again, Stella is coming into this with some heat because the sidestep got shut down because of August's party. And so her and Colton had the idea of like, well, why don't we show up at the party latest on August, force him to take responsibility. Your dad's always about, you need to take responsibility. It's time for him to take responsibility for his action and his choices. So they weren't really going to show up for the dinner. They were just going to do that. But like, Cordell's like, hey, like he's using every opportunity to be like, hey, Stella, because he doesn't know how to like bridge that gap between them. He doesn't know how to make things better. And once again, her leaving too made things kind of cut even deeper. And so once again, everything kind of went wrong, because it's like, right, the power went out, a tree branch went through the window, they couldn't finish cooking the food, they were making adjustments. Obviously, Cassie ended up bringing Kevin in, but like Kevin got here like super late after the storm had gotten there, and it's like he's soaking wet, so he gets brought inside, and it's like, oh, who's this person we're getting invited to our table at the last second? Obviously Trey had to bounce because he's a rookie, so he's got to work through this time, and James was actually going to, I guess, spend Thanksgiving with Kelly and stuff, or at least, but his flight got canceled just because of storm and everything, so everyone's there. And I do like that it was actually James and Abby who had that conversation about her brother, because he's like, no, he's like, I'm the one that asked about it, but it's like, for him, it's like, yeah, there's kind of enough like unhappy stories told between us, like what's one more between us, you know? So, but it's like, yeah, the boys made this decision years ago to make this a tradition because it's their way of helping their mom. Like, so she's kind of, it's a nice distraction away from having to deal with everything else that she would be dealing with on such a big day. And obviously, then you add in, oh God, Stella telling August like, hey, you're being he is being an absolute prick. The way it's like, oh, she's like, oh, you're worried about my diet and stuff like that. And she's like, are you just being a jerk? Do you just not have any other way of being? It's like, yeah, here. And he's like, well, what's this? And she's like, do you not care that you got the family business shut down? And Abby's more so siding with Stella, being like, yeah, you need to like tell your dad what's what, be honest about everything. But then she's also being on both of them like, whatever this is, you need to fix it. Once again, she doesn't want their relationship to end up like her brother, where they spend probably not just because their mom died 20 years ago, and it seems like that's around the time they stopped talking. So 2 decades of not really talking, not really being a family, like, especially because, I mean, they're probably the only, like all they have left is each other. Like, obviously she has her own family. We don't know if William has his own family, but it's like, yeah, we are family with siblings. Like, all we have in our our family, like our mom's gone, probably the dad's been gone for a while. All we potentially have is each other, and we're not even speaking. And you know, I think I talked about this too. Yeah, I've been in that situation. My sisters are in that situation. Like, currently, that's been something that's always happened in and out throughout life. It's just like, yeah, my sisters have not gotten along, and they have gone long periods of time without talking to each other, but then they're cool for a little bit of time, and then just life happens, shit happens, and just they kind of get in their own ways, and like, yeah, they're just, right now my sisters aren't talking to each other. They avoid each other like the plague. It's kind of a whole issue in my family, you know, not trying to get too personal with, but that's why like I really connect with that, because I'm like, yeah, I've been through that, not just recently in more recent years, but I've seen that happen my entire life, like the relationship and dynamic between my sister, and that's something I try to get across to my nieces too, because they bump heads a lot. I'm like, you only, like, for them it's like, yeah, like, because it's a trio of them as well, because I have 3 nieces, so it's like, I want all of them to, like, yes, you can bump heads sometime, but like, no one's going to ride or die for you like family. And yes, I know that's a complicated thing, because like, sometimes you have to be like, no, fuck family sucks. I'm like, but you're teenagers, you're fighting over stupid stuff. It's stuff that you're going to look back in life and, yeah, that was stupid, we were fighting over, because those small things could eventually build up to bigger things. And like, I mean, that leads to so many issues down the road. You know, you see adults struggling with that, you know? And so I want them to be well equipped to deal with stuff at a younger age, so that they're prepared for that and older. So you're equipped to be like, hey, this is some minor shit, because life is short. You never know what could happen. And it's a thing of, you don't want some minor BS to be the reason why you lose touch with someone, especially family, when it's like, once again, it ain't over something serious. It's over something stupid, like you bumping heads over something, you know? So that's why, like, that storyline really connects with me, especially, like, you know, I mean, I think everyone can connect to it in some shape or form, because everyone's got a complicated family situation. No family is perfect. There's always going to be like, oh yeah, this side of the family don't talk to this side of the family. Well, these cousins or these siblings don't get along. It's like, every family has that to some extent, because every family, like, I think every family has some degree of dysfunction amongst them. There's no such thing as the perfect family. Like, you know, there's going to be some dysfunction in some shape or form or some manner. So that, like I said, that's why that storyline in this particular episode really resonates for me. So either way, it's just everything that could go wrong, like I said, does go wrong. And so August and Stella have this like back and forth. They're making snide comments, and you have Cordell trying to like rein things in. He's like, don't worry, mama, I get what you're trying to do. Because he was already kind of on his mom before about like, I'm going to handle things. Well, I think he told his mom and his dad, like, don't worry, I'm going to handle things my own way. I think that was like last episode he had made that point to his mom, like, no, I'm going to be the one to handle things. And his father just had a conversation with him earlier about, right, yes, Stella made some mistakes. Yes, she's the one that's skipping out on college. The fact of the matter is, like, she's done this. She lied to you. It's like, about the car, but it's like, no, August has his own role to play in that too. And what does he say? It's like, yeah, but he's following his big... It's like, yeah, and that's the point. You're completely ignoring his part in all of this. But what does he say? It's like, yeah, August has always been the good kid. He's always been the one I never had to worry about. That ends up being the bigger conversation. Because, yes, when he came back, especially, like, Stella's the one he bumped heads with the most. Yes, he had issues a little bit with August, but August has always been the kid who's had a good head on his shoulders. Like, Stella found herself in trouble and been mixed up in some things here and there, but so has August. But so much is that he let slide, because I think... Because when he felt like when he came back at the beginning of the series, when he came back from the Rodeo King situation, August is the one that hadn't changed the most. He thought, like, no, my son is good. He even says later on, I thought you didn't, hell, like, what more could I offer? I figured you had it figured out, that you knew, like, you know, you had it all figured out on, like, growing up and stuff. So what did I need to really help you for? So that's why he felt like, yeah, like, Stella needed my help. But it's like, no, both of your children needed your help. But he would, you know, as his dad put it, it's like, that's having blinders on. The fact is, you couldn't see what was going on in front of you. You were so focused on Stella thinking she needed you and stuff, you didn't realize that your son still needed you. So, but he was out of line when he was like, you know, he really messed up when he was like, Marlene, you don't have to be such a bitch. You're like, yo! Everyone at the table was like, yo. Bottom was like, what the fuck you just say? He's like, you better handle that quarter or I will. It's like, yo, it's like, don't make me reach over this table, kid, and choke the living shit out of you. You don't talk to your grandmother like that. Like, on any day, but especially on a day that this is important. Like, I don't know if they know how important this day is. Liam and Cordell do, but I don't know if Stella and August know the significance of not letting Marlene work. I don't think they realize the significance of it. So it's like, man, because like August is on some asshole shit lately. And it's like, yeah, he kind of talks about it later. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't know where that's coming from. Like, there's a lot of, I think, deep-seated and rooted anger that August is dealing with that he hasn't really processed. I think there's a lot about his, because I think Stella has kind of at least like, she vocalized a lot of what she's felt. Any like wrongs or like complications with their dad, I think she's vocalized it, and I don't think August always had. Like, I think August has bottled stuff up, and now things have spiraled so out of control. He's like, I was so angry. He's like, I didn't mean to say that. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's just for him, he feels like it's spiraling so far out of control that he doesn't feel like he can rein it back in. And the same thing as like Cordell's literally in the same boat, because he's like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you, especially when Abby kept trying to be like, you should listen to your daughter. You're giving him, like, letting him skate by on privilege. And I wonder if she also saying that because maybe that's the same thing that happened between her and her brother. It's like, right, maybe there's so many similarities between Stella and August's relationship and that dynamic that maybe, I mean, obviously, like, Cordell and Liam are probably in that very same boat. So, like, I think it's just this Walker tradition that kind of just keeps, like, repeating itself time and time again. I think it's kind of how you could ultimately view that. But yeah, it's heartbreaking that things kind of turned out the way they did, and Walker's trying to be like, yeah, we're good, right? Stella, and at one point, like earlier, he had hugged her, but she didn't know how to, like, she didn't hug him back. She was just kind of like, she kind of went along with it because she sees he's trying, but he's like, you're trying, yeah, but you're not listening. And he's like, I hope it's not too late. She's like, I hope it's not too late either, but Dad, like, I'm tired and I feel like we might be too far gone, and walks away. And you could tell Colton feels bad because, like, right, he sees where his family is. It's just like, luckily, I mean, yeah, last season threw a wrench at some things and things are complicated, but look at where his mom and dad are now. And I think for him, he doesn't want he doesn't want Stella to be in a situation because he doesn't know what it's like to have like a sibling issue the way she does. But obviously he's going to take her side on things. But I think he is kind of sad to see things between her and her dad where they are now. And it's just like, he's kind of caught in the middle of that. Obviously he's on Stella's side, but I think he wants there to be, he doesn't want it to be a thing of like, he just wanted August to take responsibility for his actions and not everything kind of falling on Stella's shoulders when it's not her fault. So, like I said, it's just a lot. And Cordell did sit down and talk to August, and he's like, right, it's not on you. This is on me. I was the one that was kind of blind. Like, yes, I might not recognize you, but it's because I hadn't taken notice that things were changing. Because he's like, this is, whatever this is, isn't just a recent development. It's been building and building and building. Like I said, I think it's just a lot that August was kind of holding on to, and it kind of eventually turned into resentment towards his sister, and just kind of like, when he feels like everyone's on her side, it's like, well, the argument could be everyone's on your side because your dad gave you, like, you know, kind of gave you the benefit of the doubt that he wasn't giving Stella. So the argument could be, yeah, like he kind of felt like, oh, she had the older sibling privilege of like everyone's bending over backwards for you. But it's like, you weren't the one getting jumped down on like she was. You weren't the one that was kind of left in jail. And he kind of was like, whatever about it, you know? And it's not until this moment that he's like, nah, man, I really have spiraled so far out that he's like, I'm so angry. And he just kind of doesn't know why he's doing it. Once again, he doesn't know how to fix it. And same thing for Walker. He just doesn't know how to fix these current circumstances. So it's a complicated situation. There's good that came about from all of this. Obviously, Ben and Liam got closer, and now Liam's like, oh, like I'd love to join you on the Black Friday situation, because like, yeah, this dinner kind of spiraled out. Kevin and Cassie got closer. He's like, he doesn't come from a big family, so all this stuff, he's like, oh, I'm actually really enjoying all the drama of it, the chaos of it. He's like, I don't regret it one bit. But for Cassie, it's like, hey, I didn't really do much. Like, she felt like everyone has taken this class on how to do dating, which I'm like, hey, I'm not a good dater either. You know, I'm like, it doesn't help that I'm like a super socially awkward human being. So like those like dating muscles aren't something I've like crafted well or just, you know. But even he's like, yeah, someone who has a lot of dating experience, he's like, yeah, I'm kind of glad it's like that you're kind of fumbling your way through this, because that means you're like, right, because that means for him, it's like, right, you've been in committed relationships, or at the very least, like, you're not someone that kind of you've done a lot of dating. I mean, sometimes life ends up that way. You just haven't met the right person, so you need to kind of, there's plenty of fish out there in the water, right? So you just have to find that right person that you kind of connect with. And, you know, sometimes just you and that person might not be on the same wavelength, or just like, as life is what it is, some things aren't right. Some people are supposed to be in your life for a season. Some people are supposed to be in your life forever, you know? So that's why I won't just simply say like, oh, like if you date a lot, that's a bad thing. It's like, no, dating a lot isn't a bad thing. You're having fun. You're figuring yourself out. You're figuring out who and what matches perfectly or fits nicely with, you know, the rhythm of who you are and what, where your life is at that point in time, and where you want to take your life going forward and stuff. So I think that's just all very interesting developments on that front. I am still in the, like, this episode made me go like, though, I'm like, please don't tell me Kevin's going to be a bad guy. I mean, she thought he was a bad guy, like kind of a, douchey bro, whatever, but it's like, oh, he's actually kind of a nice guy. But I'm like, please don't let it be revealed he's actually kind of a bad person, that like we're setting this up just to break Cassie's heart just because she's ready to kind of like trust someone And just after the Sean situation, now this, and please don't let it be like, oh, there's actually more going on there. I could feel like, just for the drama's sake of things, I could tell things are probably going to be complicated. But hopefully things are just kind of nice and smooth. But just for drama's sake, I don't think it will be. So there's that situation. So August was supposed to go apologize to Abby, but the episode ends with Abby passing out, so she might be sick. It might just be everything going on finally taking its toll on her, and it's like, that's not good. And especially after, hearing about her mom being sick, and you're like, well, Bonham was sick before, and it's like, I hope Abby isn't, like, 'cause Abby might be running herself ragged just because of once again, everything going on, and maybe it's kind of like, kind of a broken heart situation, like, her heart's kind of broken about just the state of her family, everything with her own brother, and just, maybe that's finally taking its toll on her. We'll ultimately have to wait to see. Before I even wrap this up, I did forget. Cassie messed up and said gray flag around. Because I thought Walker actually almost spilled the champagne or whatever, because it's right, it's still a sore spot for him. Because it's yeah, this isn't Thanksgiving conversation, but it's because Cassie slipped up and said gray flag, which I was immediately, when I heard that, I was like, why am I thinking of Greylock? And I'm like, Greylock's the name of the town from the Republic of Sarah, which I'm like, I know that their name came up, not last episode, but the episode before last. I was curious. I was like, hopefully I didn't say Greylock before, confusing it with the town from the Republic of Sarah, and called them Grey Flag last time. Either way, but it's like, they're not supposed to know that. The only way they would know that information is if they look through the evidence. But they're keeping up the story of, hey, the evidence was never messed with, never tampered, but she kind of slipped up on that, but she's like, right, James doesn't know, but Cordell's like, yeah, but we don't know what James knows and doesn't know. So they have to be careful, because there might be information in that. Like, if we let it slip, we know certain things. That could be a whole issue. I think it will come up later on. There's some prosecutory elements of this whole thing, because I think there is still going to be more gray flag out there. I don't think it was wiped out last episode. I believe there's still more at play here, because they only killed. There was only one person, but it's like, this is a large scale organization. Maybe he's the last remnant of it, but he could just be so radicalized that he's like, yeah, I might be the only one left, but I'm still doing it. It's like, he's still got to be taking orders from somebody, still following some mandate or initiative that's still active. Like, I think they might be independent cells. Like, they might be they are a domestic terrorist organization, so they could be doing the terroristic thing of having cells kind of scattered throughout, so kind of working independently, all working towards the same goal, but all acting a little independent from each other. That way the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, type of thing. So we'll see, because James is like, oh, I know with everything going on, I want to talk to you and Cassie. Now, the thing is, did he catch on to what Cassie said, or he's like, oh, I want to read you in about everything that's going on? I'm sure that's another thing Cordell's got to be weighing on, plus now with everything with Abby at the end, too. It's like, ooh, a lot to unpack. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.